Joining us now is Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate, Erik Gerhardt. Why are you running for the U.S. Senate?
Well, the options that we've been given so far, I don't see that they going to do their due diligence to, actually help the people.
All right, welcome to the PCN Call-In Program. I'm Liaga Manyofu. For the next hour, Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate Erik Gerhardt will answer your questions. Our toll-free number is 1-877-PA6-5001. Now, Erik, just to get started and give people a little opportunity to get to know you, I want to just get a little bit into your background. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Harleysville, Pennsylvania, and it was a good childhood. I went and had Boy Scouts and stuff like that. As many problems as most families would have, and got into construction, started working with my dad. Worked for quite a few years. It's just been 21 now. Started my own business, and then came here, and the opportunity struck where I saw an opportunity with Pat Toomey saying he was going to retire, and I jumped at the opportunity.
I want to get back to one of those details you mentioned. You said you were a Boy Scout. What are some of the memories that you have from that, or some lessons that you learned that you carry with you now?
Being like a patrol leader and an actual leader with people, it is a difficult thing, and inspiring people is hard sometimes. And sometimes you got to take a step back, and I had some really good times. Mountainous walks up to lakes where we learned to do sailboating and such, kayaking, rowboating, all the merit badge stuff that you had to do, lots of hiking, just really good, beautiful times with some good people. And you learned a lot of skills. That was the whole point of going, is you learn stuff, you get the merit badges, you accumulate knowledge, which I'm thankful my mom kind of pushed me into when she was raising me up. She didn't have to. She was a den chief for me when I was in Cub Scouts all the way until I got to Boy Scouts. She kind of pushed me to keep learning, and then, the education system that most people get is just, it's not the most adequate of educations. I'm thankful I went to the tech school. That some of the teachers I had there were just amazing. Just the knowledge and basis that they had was just immense, and so many skills, so many just really good craftsmen. I would love to just build a master craft trade school and just bring all kinds of craftsmen from all over the world, just just let cultures mix a little bit, start building some bridges and stuff, and make some amazing and beautiful things. That's my dream. I would love to do something like that.
You mentioned that you have your own business. What kind of work do you do?
Construction. A general contractor.
And what do you like about doing that?
It's honest work. Working for yourself, you can make more money. It's obvious. It's something you got to do if you're ready to take that leap. It's a little bit hard work, but if it pays out, if you put in the work, and if you got some skills, people will pay for it.
And what are some of those lessons that you can gain from being a business owner that you can take into politics now?
Just become part of people's lives when you have to help them fix the problems and issues that they're going through financially, just their lives and stuff. Because I don't know if I could just do a job where I was just sitting in an office. I have to just go do stuff, and I like going different places. It's just, I can't sit still, and there's so much that could be done. That's another reason I'm running for Senate. I just want to put my ideas out there onto the table with small business plans and stuff so that they can establish themselves again, and then, extra tax referendums where they can get their employees health care. And then on like corporations, it goes up even higher, that you could give them like a percentage of tax break on the billions of dollars that they make, so that they completely have to pay for their employees' health care. I mean, just flat out, it's already paid for. They don't owe nothing. They take that money home instead of actually having to put that out for that. I mean, that's a really good business model. I mean, everybody's taken care of, and, you know, you don't have any disputes about whether they can get coverage and such like that. And, oh, there's so many issues to tackle on. Why can't we trade or sell insurances across state lines? Like, why don't we open up the 50 states to that free market capitalism that we really need? Like, just let people make money. Let their creativity out. That's what I want to see.
Now, you were running as a candidate for the Libertarian Party. For anybody who might not be familiar with the principles of the party, what are some of the key principles for the Libertarian platform?
I mean, one of them is the NAP, the non-aggression principle. I mean, times of war, I mean, you really shouldn't be attacking people and causing issues that continue just to make more issues. You just can't have bad blood for bad blood. I mean, and it's like live and let live. Like, we just keep bombing people. It's a shame. Like, I just can't believe they're doing it. I mean, why? The whole Russia thing. I mean, why can't just people just leave each other alone and just chill out a little bit? You gotta conquer the world anymore. The world ain't going anywhere.
So that's the key policy for foreign policy, for example. Are there any other policies that are really integral to the Libertarian platform?
I mean, all forms of taxation is theft. To be like one with your like self-ownership, where you are completely just one, you're your own individual, and you should have your freedoms as an individual, every single person, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Like, it goes back to the non-aggression thing. I mean, you just live your life, and then everybody just, you know, live their best one if they can.
I want to get into more of your thoughts on the business and the jobs in the economy. On your campaign website, you say that taxes should be reduced to the absolute minimum. Can you just talk about, you know, where that comes from and how you can balance sort of minimizing taxes with adequately funding public goods?
Yeah, I mean, being able to make money through trade that's free market capitalism. I mean, if more taxes you put on things, you're taking the value away from not only the consumer, but the person who had value in it. Like, they put their effort into it. I mean, that's how like all taxes like kind of theft. Like, I mean, the fact that you have to continue to pay for property tax, and it can just drain on your life and situations to the point where you can't afford to pay your property tax, and then they repossess your home. Like, it's if you paid that house off, that you shouldn't like have to pay the property tax on the house, like just endlessly for the end of time. Like, somebody owns it, it's done. Like, it makes no sense.
So with property tax, for example, would you like to see it reduced or eliminated altogether?
Limited all better, like altogether. I'll take that. Yeah, give me that one. I think it should just be gone. But there's got to be compromises. I mean, at least knock it out for people who only own one home. I mean, that's where the drag is anyway. You're pulling from the bottom where they're barely making it. Like, you gotta let them make it. I mean, you can policy some things into the like legislation so that people can rebuild their communities, because there's money to be like put into it. Just there's beautiful buildings all over the country that are just run down that could be beautiful again. It's just got to put that time, effort, and the money into it.
You also proposed that you would like to see simplifications to the tax code. What would that look like? What would some of those simplifications be?
Just eliminating as many of the ones that don't need to be there, just making a big list and just start like chopping them off with a big cleaver. And as again, many of them I can knock out down to like sales tax, just a small one. And then we'll take that one out eventually. But yeah, all the other ones, a death tax. I mean, people shouldn't have to pay a tax on the wealth or just the savings of somebody's family member that they just have to give away. Like it should go back to the family. I mean, there's so many other things you could incorporate that into as well, where you have like school choice, so they have the choice to use the funds the government was going to give the public education system for your child to give them private school, homeschool. I mean, to be able to give them an education. I mean, I'm in a room, there's a lot of books. I mean, somebody could probably learn some things from these books, right, in this room. And there's rooms like that all over the country, and people just aren't used to it. Like, how many people go to the library much anymore? I mean, there's places of education everywhere. It's just, are you going to put the work in to learn it? Which you should always try to learn as much as possible and just continue learning. Just don't stop. Keep finding stuff out. Keep going on adventures. Having a good time. And hopefully you don't get taxed to death.
Now, speaking of education, you mentioned school choice is one of the policies that you support. You yourself said you went to a trade school. What other education policies would you support if you were in the Senate?
Well, the school choice one for sure. I think Arizona just passed a school choice bill. It was like 12 pages. It could use a little tweaking maybe. Make it a little broader. It didn't have anything for homeschooling in it. Sometimes you just got to put that wording in there so, you know, people can self-teach there at home, and, you know, people who are good teachers can maybe make some extra money because they can start their own little, like, old schoolhouse type learning where everybody, like, goes to that class and they know that person in-depthly. Like, that's what you need kind of for education. I mean, you can't just throw them in the mix and hope they learn something. I mean, it's chaos.
You know, speaking of teachers and education, of course, education was significantly affected by the pandemic. So many people in businesses and business owners like yourself were also impacted. Speaking to people, to other business owners, what are some things that you're hearing about the impact that the pandemic is still having on them financially now?
I mean, people are working. The phone's not ringing off the hook like super crazy, which people start tightening their funds usually when and then that hits us too if they're not going to spend it on their houses. And that's what people need to have the shelter over their heads. I mean, you're going to put your money into that first before you're going to pay somebody to fix it. So, I mean, I'm sitting back and phone comes every once in a while and band together with other carpenters and trying to get some work done.
And for anyone who might be interested in starting a business, would you advise them that, you know, now is a good time to start a business?
It's going to be a tough one if you're going to start a business right now. But if you got something somebody wants to buy and a good idea, you can make it yourself, produce it, and find a way to sell it. No matter where you start. I mean, start in the trunk of your car. If that's all you got, you got to start somewhere. Find something to barter for. Give that to somebody else and get something a little bit better. I mean, there's multiple ways of actual exchanging of goods. And it's used in different cultures and all over this country. I mean, I love the South. They love a good bargain.
Pennsylvania hasn't seen a raise in the minimum wage in several years. In the Senate, would you support raising the minimum wage at the federal level?
See, that's not part of that free market capitalism. If you're setting a tone where if people just get what they want at a higher rate, the cost of everything goes up. I mean, if you're putting that much more money into the system, I mean, the people should be able to make more money. They gotta, work for it. And that's the thing nobody wants to do right now, because if you can get free money, why wouldn't you take it? But it's a horrible thing to take it, but then there's 11 million jobs open right now, like, across the country. Or even as a PA, I mean, not an APA. It can't be PA. It's got to be the country. But yeah, it's just craziness. People help wanted signs, initiatives saying they're still trying to pay people $1,000 just to get a job. It's insanity. But people are going out and they're getting around. It's not the giants of volumes of people who normally get out. That's all. There's still people that are still sitting at home and just living a sheltered life because of COVID shook them, and it's sad, but you got to brush that one off, and we got to move right on past that because it's gone, because everybody's probably already had it, and that's what your immune system does. And it's good for you. It loves you. It'll fight for you to the death. And I trust that over a vaccine and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, no mandates, no mask mandates. That's a horrible thing, especially on kids. Putting on the children and masks down in Philly, they were saying they were going to do. Oh, that's why? It is just flat out child abuse. It's a horrible thing. Shouldn't be done. You can't even see a smile through that. I mean, people don't learn compassion and such. You just sit back and there's no give and take as normal. You're socially disabling them from communicating. People just need to stop being sheeple and have a good life and live it to the fullest. It was the common code.
So looking at some of the policies that were implemented during the pandemic, such as masking, what are some ways that you would have maybe tried to address it differently?
I mean, how many people really got sick from it? I mean, everybody got it, but it wasn't like catastrophic. We're not talking bubonic plague and to bring out your dead. Like, some people did die. But we're very immense, dense, country. There's 330 million people in the country, and just millions or more coming in every day. And there's a lot of things that have to take issue with the whole country. The amount of change in the last 2 years has been staggering, I think, just to every extent. I mean, the fact that the federal government is giving itself more powers right now to make an extra 5 days of voting after the election. Like, how can you make that a law when constitutionally people already, per your own rules of the early mail-in voting back in the 19th, can you change the rules after people started voting? I'm sorry, that doesn't work like that. Even the mail-in voting should just be gone too. Everybody should just go and vote, and everybody should vote. Every single person, nobody gets left out. You get to vote, yes, because yes you do, except for people who aren't American citizens. I mean, just the fact that random people in other countries can just come in and vote for my rights and your rights and everybody's rights, people, you got to be invested, like, because that's your life, and you're just gonna let people throw that away? You can't. You got to get up. You got to say something. You got to fight back a little bit. And I'm still waiting for Dr. Oz to like come and debate me. Like, I would have taken him on like all 6 of the times. I mean, how many can we do? Like 3 before the election comes up? Let's just do 3. Yeah, him right there. And Fetterman, if you're able, let's go. I mean, come on, throw down. I want a debate. Like, give me some questions. There's problems. Let's start getting the solution and actually like getting to somewhere where we can have progress instead of just this whole green thing is killing me. I mean, you can't drive a car without diesel and gasoline. And now you're not produce it anymore. I'm just going all electric. You can't even mine the stuff without a gas like engine machine. Like, they don't make batteries that big for like RC car driving 100 tons of stone. They just don't do that. You can use gravity, the old-fashioned way. Just put that bitch in neutral and just right down the hill.
So I want to get into more of the issues that you mentioned. For example, what environmental policies would you support? You mentioned electric cars, something that you are in support of.
I mean, there's a lot of kinks in that system right there. There's the infrastructure for recharging's not there. They're worried about running out of power in like California because they have to charge these vehicles. They're telling you like, calm down a little bit. I mean, you can't just add to that system and create more pool without producing. And the only producers we have are using natural fuels of the earth and the oils and the gases. I mean, that stuff's still going to be needed for a long time. Even just with the numbers you look at that Elon Musk, he wants to get like 20 million electric vehicles by like 2030 he wants to build, I think, every year. I mean, we got 330 million people here in America. You got to build all that. I mean, at the 8 million he's at right now, it's going to take 41 years to do that. And how are you going to just there's not going to be enough batteries. They'll burn out or burn down, or, I mean, them things get hot. That's just, I mean, I've seen many people's cars on fire because they have the stereo systems in the trunk, and them things just combust until your car's on fire and you got to pull over. Car's done.
Yep. The topic of energy comes up often in Pennsylvania races. What kind of renewable energy resources would you support implementing, if any at all?
I'm not for the wind turbine so much. I don't think the cost per building it, the foundation, the concrete work, the blades itself, it runs on oil. The wind has to blow, which I've seen it more stop than blowing as of, I don't know, the last couple of years. I mean, here in Pennsylvania, we get some gusts from storms when the hurricanes come, but it's 30 maybe at the most, a good real clipper. It's not like crazy. And it's just, I love this state. Get all 4 seasons.
All right, we're going to give our guests a break for a moment while we take a look at some upcoming programming on PCN. After the call-in, On the Issues focuses on property taxes with Representative Frank Ryan. That's tonight at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night on the PCN Call-In Program, we'll talk about the 2022 election with Terry Madonna, Senior Fellow in Residence for Political Affairs at Millersville University, and Chris Borick, Professor of Political Science and Director of Muhlenberg College's Institute of Public Opinion. That's Tuesday, live at 7 p.m. Stay up to date on election 2022 with PCN. Watch debates, candidate interviews, and more on demand for free at pcntv.com/election. And please find a moment to thank your local cable company for PCN. They carry us on their channel lineup as a public service. We receive no state or federal tax dollars. Now, I want to get back to healthcare for a moment. Do you think that the pandemic revealed any flaws in our healthcare system that you would hope to address?
Yeah, the whole mandate and stuff. I mean, making you have to do and take something to keep your job The amount of people who lost their job were very skilled workers, nurses, all teachers. They're firing teachers. I mean, we need more education. Now you're going to let people who are teachers and probably the ones that are educated enough to not take it, that yeah, they need their jobs back. I mean, I understand liabilities and such, but you can't just let people go when everybody needs more people anywhere, everywhere. I know that the hospital near my house, they're building a whole nother hospital the same size as the hospital they just built next to it. They obviously need more skilled workers. Hopefully they're going to create a lot more jobs, obviously. And that's just the whole thing with the tax system. It breaks down that you're taking too much from everybody to allow them to just grow and actually make their own opportunities. It's like keeping you on an under thumb system. I mean, that's why almost all penalties, if they're a monetary penalty like a ticket or a fine, I mean, that's a poor person's tax, and only the poor people will suffer from that, because rich people, they have the money. It doesn't matter. They just pay it. It's done. It's gone. They still have money. But, everyday folk, you take a hit. You're taking a hit. Hopefully you just won't keep getting them. I mean, them tickets are vicious.
Another ongoing health issue in Pennsylvania and across the country is the opioid epidemic. What policies would you try to implement to try to address this issue?
I mean, they're here. Even in that, there's an opportunity to make more jobs where you create another network of like a healthcare system for the individuals who need the care. What is it? I think it's Switzerland, or maybe has the system that they, for like 3 years, will keep them in their care, but they have to work. Like, you have to have a job. Like, you have to contribute. So they find work for you, and they work. And then as they go through, they'll see that they need to wean themselves off of the drug themselves. And, that's for the very hardest of hard drugs. I mean, not all drugs are that way. They're not highly addictive. I mean, marijuana should have been legalized years and years and years ago. And now they're finding stuff even with the psychedelics, where the shrooms and stuff, through like microdosing, people can deal with their PTSDs and traumas and Alzheimer's, and I mean some of the Parkinson's. I mean, there's a guy at a marijuana festival that I was at in Oaks I met, and he suffers from Parkinson's. So he has the incredible shakes, but he takes his own tincture of CBD mixtures that he makes, and it just balances his body so that he's not bouncing off a wall, and he can function through his daily life. I mean, CBDs, I mean, that's the whole thing, is the education of even those things. I mean, the CBDs is more of just a numbing of just your senses, to like allow for your own body to deflame itself. Like, it's an inflammatory, like it'll help you with inflammation. And it has no psychedelic effects. That's the THC. That's why it's completely different. And high doses of that can lead you down a rabbit hole. I mean, stuff can happen. And you might actually learn something about yourself. It helps me with my anxiety. I partake quite often.
Now, along with legalizing marijuana at the federal level, would you also support decriminalizing marijuana and allowing those in jail on drug charges to be released?
Yeah, I mean, they're non-violent offenders and stuff like that, and it was just a marijuana charge, even just for possession. Like, that, it's a plant. I mean, it's like locking somebody up for tomatoes. Like, if you can grow it and you have the skills to make it and make it well, that, you know, I don't know how you can just take away. And that's why there's the whole basis of taxes. I mean, just having to pay somebody for the hard work of you, just you, and the person that you're dealing with. I mean, that's as personal as it gets when you take that money from anybody. That's why taxes suck, and just you shouldn't have them.
On your campaign website, you say that the war on drugs is one of the most important issues in the Libertarian platform. What is it about the war on drugs that makes it such an intrinsic part of the Libertarian Party?
Well, I mean, if you look at the dynamic of it as a nation, there's pockets of areas that have legalization of it and other areas that have prohibition of certain substances in it. Alcohol is one of them. There's dry cities and towns in New Jersey, and there's places in Maine where you can do heroin. I mean, it's just legal there. But then you're creating that supply and demand in its own black market because now you're prohibiting in certain spots. So there's a demand for it regardless. And that's why it's the idea of legalizing it just everywhere so that you can put the efforts to help the people that need it in their states, and the just benefits of the cannabis plant and the cannabinoids to just everyday life is something that should be taken advantage of because it's 100% natural, it's not addictive, it makes you feel great.
What would you say is the state of policing in the United States at the moment?
There's over-policing. I mean, there's definitely some racism. I mean, just you gotta call it what it is. People just gotta get over that. I mean, it sucks that people are racist. I like a lot of people. I've been called racist a lot. I don't know why. They just had a disagreement with me and just didn't like the outcome of the situation. And there's a lot of things that you can fix with like the internal system of the cops where they have the internal affairs. Why isn't it like a third party so you have more of an outside perspective to looking at each case? So it's not, we're going to cover this up. It's like, you've done this multiple times. It's somebody else. It's like, you messed up. Like, you're going to have to, like, deal with that. I mean, even in the training, like, they should be physically fit. And then being physically fit, in its sense, is teaching your body to, like, have discipline in itself. I mean, adding jujitsu as a discipline, just so you can, you know, submit with and skillfully because you practice it without injuring somebody. I mean, if you're trying to help somebody but not hurt them, I mean, that would be crucial in some situations, especially the high pressure situations they walk into every day. I mean, usually the cops don't get called if good things are happening. So they're always walking into something that's really life-changing at times. I mean, some of the things that they see, there's a lot to deal with, trauma stuff there too. I mean, it gets deep. It gets real deep.
Are there any changes to the current gun policies in place in the country that you would possibly make or support?
Not for any of those red flag laws. I mean, just being able to kick somebody's door in because somebody had a suspicion that somebody's dangerous and then just take their stuff and most likely start an incredible situation that in defense of themselves, they lives may be lost. I mean, it's something that you should be able to defend yourself at all times. I mean, they don't want to talk about enough of how many people actually defend people with guns, that somebody was coming to do harm to massive amounts of people and somebody stopped them within seconds of a situation starting. Maybe somebody was not killed instantly, or all the horriblest of things that have happened all over the country at all different times of every year. It's a sad thing that these things happen, and they shouldn't happen. All the fires and stuff across all the states with all the protests. I mean, how many businesses were really hurt from all the stuff that got burned down? I mean, franchisee stuff and like that set aside, but you know, the real mom and pops, the antique stores on the corner that just, you know, didn't make it through the fire. Right? It's horrible when people break their own stuff, and then they have to live with it again, even if they were even from those areas. I mean, the fact that people just ship themselves across the country as almost a job to like wreak mayhem and call themselves stuff by little names like they're a little super group. It's just, that's sickening that people would just do that for money. And then to politicize that on the national medias, where you're traumatizing the people that watch this stuff. My uncle watches CNN, and he used to be a Republican, I thought, and he's gone down the rabbit hole, and he's almost not open to any other opinion. It breaks my heart that people just live just through their TV and what they see, instead of like looking at different perspectives and taking that stuff in. I mean, there are some brilliant people in the government right now. Together we might build some stuff, but I gotta get there. That's why I'm running, so that we can make some good stuff. I mean, I think my tax plan's killer. I mean, I think we should actually do that like right away. Things get worse, people can just go and get stuff done. And that's just how things get done, because somebody's got to do it.
Moving things from the local level to the global level, what would you say is the biggest threat at the moment to American national security?
The federal government.
Could you elaborate on that?
I think it's a danger to itself right now. I think we're being completely sold out by Joe Biden. I think he is selling land that's the national land to foreign countries. I think they're taking money from foreign countries. I mean, I think he's selling our national reserves through even the Burisma company, his son Hunter's company out in Ukraine. They're just funneling that through there, and then it goes right to China. I mean, they're playing some crazy stuff. The fact that he's even at 120 executive orders when I think the average was like 5. I mean, his own words when he was running for president is, "You can't rule by executive order. You're no less than a dictator." I mean, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now, and he's not stopping. They put a bill together. I think they put it in there so that you can't be audited in the federal government. Like all the members of Congress, Nancy Pelosi and all of them, they can't be audited. They just made a law so that they can't be audited. The government is giving itself more power so that they get more shielded and protected from itself. That's the opposite of what needs to happen right now, is where the government needs to be decoiled and just start chopping some of these 3-letter organizations just right out and gone. And then you start fixing the budgets and stuff like that, because they're spending billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in all these crazy defensive agencies. And why does the branch of ICE have like 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 other extra branches? Like, why? Like, consolidate, get rid of some of that budget, spread it out. There's people that need help everywhere, all over the country. Well, I mean, you want to talk about the shootings and such with the stuff, the kids in the school. I was talking to many people who are vets would say they want to go and help and defend those children. That you can pay them almost very little, as long as just enough expenses that they could survive, and they would want to go and defend the kids at the schools. I mean, they don't need to do that, like, specifically, but, you know, that's job. People could do that as a job. That's how many schools are in the country? Not rolling off the top of my head. I think it was like 33 or 55 million. Somewhere in that range of the amount of schools in the country. Yeah. And you obviously need more schools. It's just, how do you build them? Where do you build them? Where would they be of best use? I mean, most dense populations of the cities, you're already stuck. You almost need something different, just so that it could run efficiently.
So you would support perhaps allocating more money to funding schools, to funding building more schools, for example?
I mean, you can fix up the ones that are trying to be fixed. You can build more schools. I mean, up in Pennsburg, they were going to fix the old high school, and then they were also rolling over the idea of building a high school, of which they opted to do. They were thinking about taking that back and saying not to build the high school, but they already had broke ground and they already had signed contracts. I mean, school had to be built. Now there's a brand new school there, then they were also going to spend the money on the other school to fix it back up. So now there's like 2 schools right there. But, you know, most of the kids in the area are farther away, and it's just being able to make it as a dynamic. I mean, what's even to get to the kids there. I mean, the school bus system, I mean, it works. It gets them to school. It's just what school should they be going to? I mean, I like the private school thing. They get better grades. It's more attentive. It's more of, like, I guess I'm saying, the kind of barnhouse classroom. So you're learning from the same teachers and such, and you build rapport, and it builds for a better learning environment when you're learning something. That's the whole gist with the public education system. I mean, just put as many kids in the room and hope they listen, and some will, some won't. Some will learn other things that have nothing to do with anything that the people talk to them in there. I mean, the bully thing that they want to put in place down in the city, where it's just, you know, they want people to pay a monetary thing if somebody gets bullied. It's bullying. There's bullies. It sucks, but it's part of life. Like, it's interaction. It's just nature. You can't stop that.
On the topic of education, and particularly higher education, President Biden just announced his plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student loan debt for qualified borrowers. On the topic of the cost of education, the cost of funding education, do you think that this is a good solution for borrowers?
No, not at all. You're going to have to pay taxes on that money. So you're going to get free money, but then you owe money for it. So that money's got to come from somewhere, and it's coming from you. Even inflation itself, it's a tax on people.
So on the topic of making schools affordable, is there anything that the federal government can do, or anyone in the Senate that could do to try to address the affordability of schools?
This is a reason why all the schools cost so much. I mean, there's got to be a more efficient way to build them, and be of good use to the communities that they need. But then, just that it needs the adequate training of the teachers, which we're in short supply of those as well. I mean, the whole system's kind of breaking down with people being dependent on electronic devices, watching the news. You're stuck into a rut where it's cheese and circuses, and that's going to keep you kind of complacent, which we need to be involved with the people in our communities. You got to engage and try to teach them stuff. And, sometimes people will listen, and that's a good thing. But this whole pandemic has just flipped the script on the mindset of just everybody. It shook them. And some people are stuck still. They have ads on TV, which I hate. Just commercials. They're the worst thing in the world. I don't know why they exist. I know why they exist, because they make people money. But, are you watching TV or are you watching commercials? It's a horrible thing.
I want to jump back to the topic of national security for a moment. As a member of the U.S. Senate, you would have to deal with several issues related to foreign policy. With your non-aggression principle in mind, how would you deal with issues like the war in Ukraine at the moment?
Well, I think they had a $40 billion just cash giveaway to Ukraine. I don't know where that went. I don't think they know where that went. It's just gone. I mean, they're spending a lot of money, and they're really going to probably see no return on it. I mean, that's just bad business. And it's not even their money. It's your money. It's the people's money. And I understand they have a conflict and they need assistance, and they're getting assistance. It's sad that they have to defend themselves because somebody wants to have his name written in the history books and not be forgotten, of which, as we stand right now, his name is probably in the history books and won't be forgotten. So there's no reason to just kill a lot of people and take people's land. It's not freedom. You're taking their liberty away. It's a horrible thing, and it shouldn't happen.
And what do you think about financial investment in the U.S.'s involvement in organizations like the UN or NATO?
Oh, there should be a definite renegotiating of the NATO, definitely. Kind of serves almost no purpose. They're not stopping wars. There's more war, because they were just arguing about that they had borders and other countries that wanted to be part of UN. Was it Finland and Sweden? And that's like going against the non-aggression principle. We are getting these people here, and we are consolidating our forces. Please, just don't mess with us. And then other countries invading countries that possibly would want that assistance, of which who knows what nefariousnesses they do. What happened to the Epstein flight list and stuff like that? How comes they're not going after these people? And I know all the people who are running for office or in office right now they're so happy they have the protections of presidencies and such, because you really can't be prosecuted as a president. You can be impeached, of which, if you're laundering money through a company in Ukraine to China and you're making a kickback on that, that's like profiteering. And I think that is in using the position for monetary gain in the Constitution, something you can be impeached for. I'm sure there's a big list of just things that he could be impeached for. Almost all the laws that he's passing right now are mostly unconstitutional and should just be null and voided at the governor level. Just every state just say, we're not following that. No, sorry. They're supposed to work for us. That's why you pay taxes, so that they work for you. If they're terrorizing you and taking your money, and they're a terrorist organization and should be treated as such, so they won't be getting my money. Sorry.
Looking at the current makeup of the U.S. Senate, there are two independent senators. There's Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Senator Angus King of Maine. Both of them choose to caucus with the Democrats. What would your approach be to working on bills? Would you follow suit? Would you mix with other caucus? What would your method be?
Of course. I'm a third party. I mean, I don't have to kowtow to either of them. Like, if you want to work with me, I'll work with you. I met a nice congressman up north near the Poconos. So hasn't called me back. I had a good conversation about, stuff. And, good times were had. Excuse me, what was the question? I lost track of thought right there.
There are currently two independent senators in the Senate as it's made up right now, but they choose to caucus with the Democrats. So as the one outlier, you'd kind of be the decider in the Senate since it's split 50-50. So would you choose to caucus with the Democrats, the Republicans, or would you work with both sides? What would your approach be?
Oh, we definitely got to work with both sides. I mean, there should be like a tripartisanship where, everybody's in agreement. I mean, that's kind of the part of politics and having a republic, so everybody has their own voice. I mean, that's why there's other parties. There's a Green Party, there's a Constitutional Party. The list goes on. I'm one of the lucky ones that actually got onto the ballot and with the Libertarians, the Party of Pennsylvania. And, the Libertarians have a very interesting and very unique, intelligent, philosophy on how politics and government should be viewed and actually treated, because it's ours. They belong to us. That's why it's like the People's Steps when they went for January 6th. That was their building, their tax money paid for. That it's open to the public usually at any other time. People could have probably just sat in the balcony if there was room. I'm sure there was room. I'm sure that room wasn't filled. I mean, that wasn't packed to the gills where people were fleeing and screaming in all directions. That, I mean, it is a sad thing that somebody got shot. I mean, that's horrible. If it ever gets to that point, then your government is way beyond the bounds of where it should be when they're using physical force to hurt you. I mean, that's the whole thing with red flag laws. You go there and they come and they just enter themselves into your life just because. That shouldn't happen to anybody. Shouldn't happen no matter where you're from. I mean, I don't see how they haven't had actual charges on Trump for anything. How? I love him to death for his tweets too. His tweets are they were the best thing. The fact that he got so many people to react to a topic because he said something bad about it was great. I loved it. I like people talking about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. That's what we need to do. Everybody needs to do this. We just need to talk about it and get to the juicy bits. I mean, they're there.
Looking at your competitors in this race, Dr. Mehmet Oz and current Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, how do you differentiate yourself between the two?
There was no silver spoon. Hard work. Just hard work. Keep working. And, as long as you keep working, you're going to get somewhere. Hard work always pays off. Keep on rocking. But, yeah. I mean, having anything that you want and Oz, I mean, is a feather in your cap really worth it for giving up a good opportunity to somebody who might have some good ideas? And you still don't want to talk to me, face to face, and talk about some issues. I mean, you could be sitting right here next to me. I mean, I'm not shy. It's good. I mean, I'm still waiting. Fetterman, I've already done it. I'd love to do it again. Speedy recovery, hopefully. Just keep on keeping on. Yeah.
All right.
I haven't seen him since the Pittsburgh debate, or not the debate, the foreign policy forum that they had.
And how are you getting your message out to voters? Are you out on the campaign trail? Are you on social media?
Social media. I go out to festivals and fairs and races and public events and just walk around and hand stuff out. And if anybody wants to talk, I mean, they can ask me a question. We'll have a conversation. I mean, that's how you find out what people want, need, and what could help them. I mean, there's just a guy was bugging me the other day. He wasn't bugging me at all. He thinks too much of himself, like he's too much for some people. Some people are too much for some people, but he had problems with child support issues and stuff like that, where they rape some of the fathers and stuff across the coals for lifestyles, and people have to pay tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars for that care. And is it going to the kid if they're getting all this money, can you make sure that it goes to the education of the child? Like, the child should definitely be in private school, like learning a higher education. And they're the first, most priority. I mean, the children are first. I mean, that's why education is so important. And how do we get better education for everybody? I might not have the answer for that one. I mean, I'll work on it. I mean, there's so many things that need to be fixed in every other facet of our government right now, and there's a lot of work to do. And hopefully some people are ready to really put in some effort and fix some things.
All right. Well, that is going to have to be the last word. Our guest has been Libertarian for U.S. Senate, Erik Gerhardt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Next on PCN on the Issues focuses on property taxes with Representative Frank Ryan. That's next at 8 o'clock. And if you didn't get a chance to call in and comment during our show, you can post your question or comment on our Facebook page or on Twitter. I'm Liaga Manyofu. Thank you for watching.